Hey crew, welcome back to the next video on the Arbor press. Now that you've did all that work to assemble it, we're here to take it all apart. But before you do, you may have noticed I forgot to put a couple parts in that assembly. One being the rack pad down here at the bottom, and the other thing was the screw that holds the gear in on the side. So if you didn't put those in, go ahead and try to get those in right now quick. Then let's go ahead and get a new file started. So file new. And we're going to be working with presentation this time. And we want the standard inch presentation file, IPN. And it's going to ask you right away what you want to use. What kind of assembly you're going to do. And we're going to use our Arbor press. In this case, you can see I've got it. Once I made my original, I duplicated, well, for demo reasons, but you may want to duplicate yours for exploded view or if we're doing simulations. It doesn't hurt to have copies of your assemblies. That way you don't mess up your documentation file very much. So in this case, I got my exploded view demo, so I'm going to open that. And there it is. If it happened to come in at a different orientation and you want it to look just like mine, which is probably a good idea, what you'd want to do is use that glass box to get that view orientated the way you want, kind of fill the screen nicely, hit the drop arrow, set that current view as home, and then click on that fixed distance. And that makes that home button look just like this. The other thing you want to do right now is when I'm looking at my documentation, let me just pull it to the screen here that I'm recording. You can see I got the handle kind of at this 45 degree, so I want to make that match. So make sure in your assembly file you get that handle orientated the way you want. And again, usually that sleeve works better to twist, but I want that handle at about 45 degrees up and out to the left there. Go back to my presentation file, and just like that, voila, it updates live when everything's working well. Okay, and with that, we're ready to start pulling some parts away from each other. Looking back at the documentation one more time, these trails, what these lines are called, are trails. They can kind of help you sometimes realize the alignment of certain objects. And what the base kind of here tells me is that I must have moved this base to the left and then down. So the table, pin, and base kind of need to have that movement first to get away from the column. And then pretty much everything else, the big items off the column are just pulled straight out, which is pretty simple. So let me get that out of the way. The tool we're going to be using all the time is called Tweak Components, right up here. We click on that, we kind of get this window somewhat that pops up. It helps control it, but really it's pretty simple here. We're going to click on the objects that we want to move. You click on something, you get directional arrows. You can even slide back. You know, the arrows really represent axes, so you can really slide in either direction on any one of these axes. And we're just going to be moving them until there's space around each part. Now in this first movement, it's actually a little bit of a combo. I want to move several things at once. So the base is already clicked on, so holding control, I click on the table, and I also click on the pin. Now if I'm not sure if I got everything, you can expand over here on the browser a couple of times, and sure enough, I have 3 objects selected. You can also just do all your selections over here in general, so you know you're selecting exactly what you want at any time. Now with those 3 objects highlighted, I'm going to move them to the left a little bit. And then I'm going to start moving down. Again, those arrows represent axes. Doesn't matter that it points up. I can make it slide down. And as you can see, if I don't like where I stopped, I just grab it, move it a little bit more again. And yeah, we're going to say that looks pretty good right now. I'm going to drop the table off because that's the way it looks in my drawing. So hold control, click on table. The other 2 things are still highlighted. So when I drag some more, those 2 things go together. I'm looking for the pin to clear. Click on the pin, control and click on the pin to deselect, and then just move that down some more yet until there's an airspace. Looks good. Green check mark. There's our first set of movements. And if something doesn't look right, I can always go back in and tweak it some more to get it where I need it to be. Big thing is I'm looking for air gaps around our parts so they're easy to identify. All these trails, we can hide these trails at any time by right-clicking, hide tail group, or you can shut them all off in the document too at one time as well. All right, so let's move some more stuff. Tweak components. The bolt, for example, click on it, grab the arrow, drag it back, green check mark, done. Pretty easy. Let's move the rack pad down. Tweak components. Click on the rack pad, grab the arrow, slide it down, green check mark, done. Let's do a group again. We're going to pull the handle or the gear, the sleeve, and some handle stuff out. So I'm going to go over on the browser. I want the gear, the sleeve, the handle, and each ball end all selected as a group. I find the arrow that moves them, and that's right here. This one will slide out into the left. Move that out a little ways until my gear, watching the gear first. When that's in about the right spot, then I can hold control and click on it again to deselect it or kind of drop it off. Slide some more out to the left. And just green check mark that whole group, because the handle and the ball ends need to slide in a different axes. So it's just as easy to drop them off for the moment, or just accept what I have and go right back into tweak. Click the handle, control, click on the ball end. Let's slide that stuff out that way. Drop off the handle by control and selecting it again. Move that ball end out some more. Green check mark. Those two things look good. Tweak components. Click on that ball end mill and grab that arrow to slide it on that axis. Green check mark. And we are cruising here. Let's bring the rack up. Tweak components. Click on the rack. Grab the arrow. Slide it up. Green check mark for good. We're going to move the cover plate and the screws out next. Tweak component. And I can just grab them all actually in the browser. Click on the cover plate. Holding control, I click on each screw. Grab the arrow that represents the axes. Slide it out a little bit. Click on the control and click on the cover plate to kind of deselect and drop it off. And bring the 4 screws out a little further. Green check mark. Looks great. Alright, only thing left is this screw right here. So tweak components, click on that screw, and I'm actually going to go back to my default view so that way I can see that I'm bringing this out far enough, just like how it'll be on the document. I'd say right about there looks great. Green check mark. And that is how you explode an assembly. It is just a series of tweak components. And if for any one reason I move something, it kind of got in the way of something else, just go back in and tweak and move it a little bit more. Push, pull, drag it into place as needed. Now the thing is, as we get our exploded views made, when you're all done, we need to create a snapshot of this right there. Sometimes we get a default snapshot right away, but when you're done, you definitely want to click New Snapshot, and there you go. You should have a picture now of this exploded view. If you had another picture or thumbnail to the right you did not want, you can always just right-click and delete it. And what they did, this is a newer feature they've added, so you can actually take pictures. If you had a really complicated assembly, you could do a series of pictures along the way of how you pulled this thing apart. So you might have like a bunch of groups and then break those groups and so on and so on. But anyway, tweak components to do the actual adjusting or exploding of the assembly, and then a new snapshot. Make sure it's over here in the snapshot views, and save this file. You are done. You're ready now to place this document or this view on your drawing and create a parts list with balloons, okay? So thanks for watching. Good luck. We'll see you in the next video.